The rich aroma of fresh espresso filled my cramped apartment as I scrolled through the morning headlines on my laptop, and there it was, front and center on the business page. 30 new locations planned. My sister's smug face grinned at me from the article's photo, her expression radiating victory. The coffee in my cup suddenly tasted bitter. A year ago, that had been my coffee shop, Little Bird Coffee House, a labor of love I built from nothing. Now, it was the flagship store of Isabella's Cafés, my sister Emma's rapidly expanding coffee empire. She'd gutted its soul, replacing warmth and authenticity with pretentious gold signage and overpriced pastries. My phone buzzed. Emma. Sarah, darling, her voice dripped with honey-coated venom. I assume you've seen the news. We're bringing sophisticated coffee culture to the masses. Such a shame you never had the vision to see Little Bird's true potential. I clenched my jaw. What do you want, Emma? Just checking if you'll be at Mom and Dad's anniversary dinner tonight, though I understand if you can't afford the dress code at Lure anymore. The line went dead before I could respond. I exhaled slowly, my grip tightening around my coffee cup. And then, just like that, I was back in the moment that changed everything. 1 year earlier, a coffee subscription service, my father's voice boomed through the Foster Restaurant Group's boardroom. That's your big proposal? I stood at the head of the sleek, glass conference table, my presentation slides glowing behind me. It's more than that, Dad. Little Bird has a loyal customer base. If we integrate digital ordering, specialty roasts, and home delivery. Absolutely not, Emma cut in, her tone as smooth as her designer suit. As CEO of Foster Restaurant Group, she had spent years strategically cementing her control over the family's hospitality empire. My success with Little Bird had always been an inconvenience to her. She folded her hands neatly. We're not sinking company resources into your hobby shop. I met her gaze. Little Bird makes a profit, a good one. These innovations could. Emma laughed, shaking her head. Compete with real restaurants? Sarah, let's be honest. You're running a glorified Starbucks in a prime location that could be generating real revenue. Dad nodded. She's not wrong. That downtown corner property is too valuable for experiments. It's not an experiment, I argued. I built Little Bird from nothing. Our customer satisfaction scores are. Emma's lips curled into a predatory smile. Irrelevant. And then she slid a folder across the table. My stomach dropped. What is this? I asked. She leaned back. The future of Foster's coffee division, Isabella's Cafés, a sleek, upscale brand that will revolutionize the industry, starting with a full rebrand of our existing location. I flipped open the folder. The images inside were gut-wrenchingly familiar. Little Bird, its name scrubbed away, its identity erased beneath sleek marble countertops and faux European charm. You mean my location, I said, my voice quiet but firm. Emma's smirk widened. Little Bird operates under Foster Restaurant Group, and as CEO, I have the authority to assume direct management of any subsidiary that fails to meet its growth targets. My blood turned to ice. Targets you deliberately set impossibly high, I shot back, turning to my father. You know this is wrong. But I could see it in his face. He had already chosen a side. Emma didn't need his approval, she already had the votes. The board will now vote, she announced, voice syrupy sweet. All in favor of rebranding under Isabella's Cafés? One by one, hands went up. Every hand. Except mine. Excellent, Emma said, standing with an air of finality. Sarah, you have two choices, stay on as a regional manager under the new brand or accept a generous severance package. Generous, right, just enough to shut me up, not enough to start over. I gritted my teeth. You can't just. Emma sighed, gathering her things. I can, and I have. She smoothed the fabric of her blazer, then leaned in close. Face it, Sarah, you never had the killer instinct for real business. You're better suited to small things. She pointed to the door. Oh, and clear out by Friday. The remodeling crews start Monday. I sat frozen as the board members filed out, people I had grown up with, learned from, none of them meeting my eyes. Dad paused for the briefest second. It's just business, Sarah, nothing personal. But it was personal. Because Emma had wanted Little Bird gone long before today. My success, my community, the customers who chose me over her corporate chains, it had driven her crazy. And now, she had taken everything. Walking through Little Bird that final Friday, I watched my staff pack up years of memories. There were hugs, quiet tears, whispered promises of support. Something inside me cracked. But something else hardened. Because what Emma didn't know, what no one knew, was that I'd seen this coming. For a year, I had been carefully documenting everything. Every expired shipment Emma forced her restaurants to serve, every health code violation she paid to disappear, every financial loophole she exploited to keep the board blind. I had been making plans, too. Plans that would take time to mature, but when they did, as I stepped out of Little Bird for the last time, I turned the spare key over in my palm. Emma had won this round. But she had no idea what was coming next. "Goodbye, Little Bird," I whispered to the empty cafe. "See you soon." 1 year later, like a slow-dripped espresso, I watched from the sidelines as Isabella's Cafés grew. Little Bird's cozy charm, gone. Warm wooden tables replaced by sterile marble, local art stripped away in favor of mass-produced prints. Even our signature drinks had been butchered into overpriced, faux Italian imitations. But while Emma expanded aggressively, I had been patiently pulling every thread I could find. "Everything's ready." Marcus Wan slid a folder across his desk. As one of the city's top restaurant consultants, he had been piecing together Foster Restaurant Group's financial puzzle for me. "You were right," he said, "the numbers don't add up." I flipped through the pages. "How bad is it?" "Bad." He tapped a highlighted section. "They're using massive loans secured against projected earnings, but the real revenue? Nowhere near their forecasts. They're burning through cash." "And the health code violations?" Marcus sighed. "Worse than we thought. 30 serious infractions, bribed inspectors. If this goes public." "It will go public," I said, closing the folder. My time had come. Emma took Little Bird from me. Now, I was going to take everything from her. I leaned back, absorbing the weight of it all. Emma's empire was built on sand. And the tide was rising. My phone buzzed, a text from my former assistant at Little Bird, now working inside Isabella's corporate office. "Emergency board meeting tomorrow, something about the new health inspector." I smiled. Right on schedule. The next morning, I dressed with quiet precision, an elegant, understated suit, no designer labels, just confidence. The newspaper headlines told the story I had been orchestrating for months. Major fraud uncovered in Foster Restaurant Group. Health code violations spark investigations. Isabella's Cafés on the brink. I didn't go to the board meeting. Instead, I sat in my new office, one with a view, watching the chaos unfold through a steady stream of updates flooding my phone. The new health inspector, one who couldn't be bribed, had conducted surprise audits at 10 Foster Restaurant Group locations. The findings were damning. Meanwhile, an anonymous tip had triggered a financial probe into the company's loan applications. Emma called 4 times. I let each call go to voicemail, picturing her spiraling panic as her carefully curated world cracked apart. Then Dad's name flashed on my screen. For the first time in a year, I answered. "Where are you?" he demanded, his voice tight. "We need you at this meeting." "Why?" I asked coolly. "I'm not part of the company anymore, remember?" "Sarah, please, the situation, it's bad. Emma's not handling it well. We need someone who actually understands the coffee division." I nearly laughed. Now he wanted my expertise, after standing by while Emma gutted everything I built. "That was business," he said weakly. "So is this, Dad." I let the words hang for a moment, then, casually, "Tell Emma to call Phoenix Hospitality Group. They might be interested in discussing acquisition terms." Phoenix Hospitality, the firm that's been buying up struggling restaurant chains? "That's the one." I smiled, though he couldn't see it. "I hear they're fair, unlike some people." 2 hours later, Emma called again. This time, I answered. "Phoenix Hospitality is your company, isn't it?" She didn't bother with pleasantries. "You're behind all of this." "Behind what, Emma?" "The health violations, the fraudulent loans, the cooked books, you vindictive little." "Careful," I cut in smoothly. "You're about to need my help." Silence. Then, through gritted teeth, "What do you want?" "Meet me at Little Bird, the original one. 1 hour." "That's impossible. The auditors, the regulators." "1 hour, Emma, or I start forwarding some very interesting documents to those regulators." I hung up and made one final call. "Marcus, Start the next phase. 1 hour later. I stood inside what had once been my home. The bones of Little Bird were still there, hidden beneath Emma's sterile renovations, the towering windows, the exposed brick, the warmth trying to break through the cold corporate veneer. She arrived 5 minutes late. Her usual polish was cracking, disheveled hair, tense shoulders, a strain in her eyes she couldn't quite hide. "All right," she snapped, "what's your game?" I gestured to a table, one of my old wooden ones, recently delivered. "Sit." She hesitated, then sank into the chair. For the first time, her voice lacked its usual edge. There might not be a company left to fight over. The loans, the investigations, were hanging by a thread. "I know." I sat across from her. "I also know exactly how many inspectors you bribed, how much money you funneled off the books, and just how deep you're buried." Her face paled. "How did you? You're not the only one who knows how to play the game, Emma. I just play it cleaner." I slid a thick folder across the table. "Phoenix Hospitality is prepared to acquire Foster Restaurant Group, legitimately. We'll stabilize the finances, resolve the legal issues, and rebuild what you broke." Her fingers hovered over the folder. "You want to take over?" She let out a hollow laugh. "After everything, you want to be my boss?" "No, Emma." I leaned forward. "I want to save our family's legacy, the right way this time." She stared at me, really looked at me. "When did you get so ruthless?" I smiled. "I learned from the best. The difference is, I never lost my integrity in the process." The door chimed. Dad walked in, looking smaller than I had ever seen him. "The board's waiting, they need terms." I pushed the contract toward Emma. "Your choice," I said evenly. "Sign now, keep some dignity, and stay on in a reduced role, or wait, and watch it all burn." Her hand trembled as she reached for the pen. "I never thought, never imagined, that I had the instinct for real business," I finished for her. A wry smile crossed my lips. Funny how things work out. 6 months later. The transformation of Foster Restaurant Group under Phoenix Hospitality was everything I had envisioned. And every morning, I saw the proof. I stood in the doorway of Little Bird, watching the morning rush. The soulless marble was gone, the overpriced, mass-produced aesthetic replaced with warm woods, soft lighting, and walls filled with local art. Real coffee, real people. A homecoming. I had one. And this time, I had done it my way. I'd always loved the overpriced pastries. They had given way to fresh goods from local bakers. More importantly, the soul of the place had returned. Marcus appeared at my side, holding his tablet. "The numbers from last quarter are in. Little Bird's revenue is up 200% since the restoration. The authentic approach is working across all locations. And the health inspections?" He grinned. "Perfect scores across the board. Amazing what happens when you actually follow the rules," I said dryly. Then I saw her. Emma stood near the counter, hesitating. No designer suits, no perfect makeup, just simple business casual, her hair pulled back naturally. "The morning rush looks good," she said as I approached. Since the takeover, she had been working as our quality control manager, a position that required her to visit restaurants, talk to staff, and actually listen. To my surprise, she was good at it. "Better than your projections for Isabella's ever were," I couldn't resist adding. She flinched but didn't snap back. "I deserve that. I deserve worse, actually." She glanced at a barista, watching as he carefully poured steamed milk into espresso. "You know what I realized?" she said quietly. "I never really tasted the coffee at Isabella's. I was too busy chasing expansion, manipulating numbers, and now?" She took a breath. "Now I know every blend we serve. I know our baristas' names. I understand why people love Little Bird so much." She met my gaze. "I understand what I destroyed." Before I could respond, Dad walked in. Like Emma, the past 6 months had changed him. Retirement suited him. He looked lighter, younger. "My 2 brilliant daughters," he beamed. "Having us both here, it reminds me of the early days. I just came from a breakfast with the Restaurant Association. They're calling Little Bird's revival a model for sustainable growth." Emma shook her head. "Sarah's model," she corrected softly. "I just wish I'd seen it sooner." For the first time, I saw real regret in her eyes. "You know," I said slowly, "we're launching that coffee subscription service I pitched last year, the one you shot down. We could use someone who understands both the corporate and quality sides to run it. Hope flickered across her face. You trust me with that, after everything? Trust, but verify. I smiled. You'll report directly to Marcus. There will be oversight. But yes, I think you've learned some valuable lessons. Dad cleared his throat. Speaking of lessons, the family cabin needs some work. I thought maybe this weekend, we could all. Like when we were kids, Emma asked softly. We used to spend weekends there, before the restaurant business consumed everything. I looked around Little Bird, at the happy customers, the dedicated staff, the warmth and authenticity we had rebuilt. Sometimes, fixing a business meant fixing a family too. I'd like that, I said. That evening, after the last customers left, I took my usual seat by the window. Emma joined me, setting down 2 cups of our signature blend. I have to ask, she said, how did you do it? Build Phoenix hospitality right under our noses? I sipped my coffee, savoring the perfect balance. While you were chasing expansion, I was building relationships, talking to independent restaurant owners, learning their struggles. When Foster Group started swallowing beloved local spots, those owners were happy to invest in a company that valued authenticity. She exhaled, and the evidence against us? People talk when they're angry, the shortcuts, the violations, all I had to do was listen and document. She nodded slowly. You could have destroyed us completely, had us arrested. I could have, I agreed, but that wasn't the point. The point was to save what mattered, our family's legacy of bringing people together through food and drink, just not the way you were doing it. Emma traced the rim of her cup, thoughtful. The subscription service. I have some ideas, ways to connect with customers personally, not just chase numbers. That's exactly what we need, I said, smiling. Welcome back to Little Bird, Emma. The next morning, I arrived early to find Emma already there, learning the espresso machine from our head barista. Dad sat nearby, actually talking to customers instead of checking stock prices. Marcus appeared with the latest reports, but I waved him off. Later, I said, right now, I need to make some coffee. Behind the counter, working alongside my staff, I felt the same quiet joy that first drew me to this business. The morning sun streamed through the windows, catching the steam from the espresso machine like a halo. Little Bird was soaring again, higher than ever. And this time, it had lifted my whole family with it. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't destroying what others built. It's showing them a better way to build. Sometimes, healing a business means healing hearts. And sometimes, the most powerful move in business isn't a hostile takeover. It's offering someone who hurt you a chance to do better. As I crafted the day's first latte, drawing a perfect heart in the foam, I smiled. Success, like the perfect cup of coffee, is all about balance.